Today,
Mhm.
Adam Schefter dropped this bad boy, which comes after so much more. He said in his week of the draft insight, quote, sources said that the Steelers had not been planning to draft a quarterback in round 1, but they also were not expecting Shedeur Sanders to fall out of the top 10. Now, all options seem to be on the table, and they are preparing in case they have the option to draft Sanders. So Sanders came in for a pre-draft visit. I think that kind of stunned everybody because it was a lot of hypotheticals. It was a lot of, yeah, they probably have interest in Shedeur Sanders, but we're guessing on what that level of interest is. Then it came out. I mean, I've been told, I'm sure you've been told, they really like Shedeur Sanders.
Yep.
I don't know if that means that they're going first round with a quarterback. I have a hard time believing that they are, even if it is Shedeur Sanders. I personally think he's the only one out of the group outside of Cam Ward. If, pigs flew and the NFL draft got real chaotic in Green Bay, they wrote the wrong name down or something.
Yeah.
Shedeur would be the only guy they took in round 1. Outside of that, if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, there's Jackson Dart, Tyler Shuck. You said Jalen Milroe, who seems to be a big question mark. You could go as deep as Will Howard was the name to watch for like months. Now he's not. I've been told they really like Quinn Ewers. I have no idea how to feel about that one.
I know how you should feel about that one.
Yeah, like it's not good. Nobody should feel good. Kyle McCord came in for a visit. There are all these names. If you're the Steelers, I have a feeling you're not going to say first round. I don't think that's the place to go. Where are you looking for a quarterback? Where's your quarterback for the Steelers? Because they are probably going to draft one.
Yeah, it is tough because they are going to draft one. I think that you just see the writing on the wall, whether it's in round 1 or not. Will Howard to me just seems like a Steelers-y quarterback.
Compared to Mason Rudolph today.
Yeah, and it's funny because I think it was a couple months ago. I actually tweeted out. Somebody asked me my thoughts on him, and I said that he kind of reminds me of Mason a little bit in some ways. With Howard, like he went on this like Linsanity run down the college football playoffs in terms of like just the way that he was playing. He's a really tough player. He gives you a little bit in the red zone as a runner. I do think that accuracy, especially at like the second level, he knows when to like take some touch off. Really good on crossers, things like that. Him and Abuka seem to have a really good connection there. My thing with Howard that I think is it scares me a little bit when we're talking about college quarterbacks translating to the next level is when he gets pushed off this spot, I just feel like everything goes downhill. And that's just kind of the nature of playing quarterback in the NFL. The pockets get really muddy. You're going to have to navigate through traffic. I just thought everything from his mechanics, his decision-making kind of went downhill after he got pushed off his spot. With Milroe, kind of mentioned him earlier, total lottery ticket. I would be interested in getting him on the second day of the draft. Like if he did last until, say like the late second round, like if they were able to trade back, I think if they were able to trade back maybe to like 32, 34 range, they might be able to pick up like the 65th pick. If he was there at that point, I'd be interested in selecting him. It just seems like he's going to go earlier than that, just based on the needs that teams have around the league for quarterbacks. Everybody's thirsty for one. With Milroe, he's just a dynamic athlete, like one of the best athletes we've ever seen at the position. Like there's never been a pursuit angle that he can't destroy. And that's kind of like the way that I've described his like rushing ability. As the passer, it's really all deep balls, but he does show good touch. I thought there was some nice things in terms of his improvement in the pocket, cutting down on the sacks, things like that. But the floor is just so low with him. And it's really frustrating because you'll see some highs and then you'll see some really dangerous lows where he just looks unplayable. Another guy's going to need to sit. So, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I think my personal preference would be like if you could hold off until like the 4th round and just try to get a backup. Because I do think that this class, I would be really surprised if this class gave us more than like, I'll say more than 2 starting quality players.
Yeah.
But I do think that there are like an unusual amount of backup quarterbacks or developmental pieces. One of the guys that I kind of like is Max Brosmer from Minnesota, a guy who's like played a good amount under center. He's deadly in the intermediate area. The field throws to the middle. Can really pace people over there. Throws with good anticipation, something that's really lacking across a lot of these profiles. But he's somebody that I think is going to go in like the 6th, 7th round and probably have like a 10-year career just because he knows what to do with the football, even if he doesn't have any ability to create with his legs.
Yeah, I agree. I've said that the entire draft process is this draft evens out like right on that 4th round mark where it's just like, all right, talent meets pick. Here we go. This is what you're looking for.
Yeah, I think that's I kind of think that's my thing is like, I think if I was the Steelers, I understand you have to take one just because the nature of where the depth chart sits, and they've kind of bungled this whole like quarterback search, honestly, in my opinion. But if a guy like McCord or a guy like Will Howard was there at the 4th round, like I would really be excited about that because they are both players that have played a lot of ball. I think that you saw that translate over the last couple of years. Guys that play a lot of college ball are really experienced, tend to have a little bit smoother of a transition. That's the way like old school front offices used to view this spot. Is they used to want 3-year starters. Now, with the amount of underclassmen we were getting guys drafted in the 1st round with like 300-400 passing attempts, and like a lot of those guys haven't panned out. But guys like Howard, guys like McCord could be players that, say, if you do go into the season with Mason Rudolph and the Aaron Rodgers thing falls through, whatever that saga, however that unfolds, guys like Howard, McCord could probably come in and you might be able to give them like a 6 to 8 game audition and just see if there's anything there. I don't necessarily think that they're starting quality talents, but you could give them an audition and then go into 2026 with all of those comp picks and all the draft capital and ammo necessary to move up and get a guy that you're really sold on.
What's because that's the big question. And you just said it. Everybody talks. Why would you wait? Why would you want to wait to 2026? Can you explain in your thought why you'd wait till 2026?
Yeah, I mean, everybody and their mom has asked me about like my thoughts on the 2026 class.
My mom's also curious. She texted me to ask you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting like texts, DMs about I have had, I would call, secondhand exposure to a lot of the quarterbacks just because of grinding tape on their teammates throughout this process. I would be doing everybody a disservice if I gave very firm opinions on any of them because I just haven't seen them outside of live viewings and like looking at their teammates. But there are guys that I think are just dripping with traits. I would say that maybe more so than this class where you're talking about a guy like Shadir Sanders, who has kind of middling traits and is going to need to be a different player in the league than he was necessarily in college. And I am sort of intrigued to see if he can actually do that. But I think the big thing just goes back to what I said on the onset about the goals for the Steelers in this draft. Don't reach on the quarterback just because you need one. I understand you got to keep taking swings, but just make sure it's a justified one, that there's either some sort of development or developing prospect that you're excited about and fits your offensive scheme well, or somebody with at least the traits to pay off that investment. And I think that's where I differ from a lot of the draft analysts or just a lot of people in general with a guy like Jackson Dart. I love how charismatic he is. He's tough as nails. He throws with great touch, especially like intermediate areas, sail routes, crossers. He can really get the ball up and down, but I just don't necessarily think he's not necessarily as athletic as a runner to be a true dual threat. And I also just don't see like the arm talent that I think a lot of other people do. I think it's just really like mostly average. So he wouldn't be a guy that I would just like feel really comfortable about taking in the 1st round, knowing that he's going to have a tough transition outside of that system.
I agree. I look at it and just say sometimes the risk of waiting till next year, the patience is worth the reward. And that's where the Steelers kind of sit, where they might not sit and where they might kind of be a little urgent on his defensive tackle. That's the next position.
I will say this. Yeah, I will say this too. Even though I mean, I'm out here grinding like day 3 safeties and edge rushers over the past like weekend, just trying to finalize my big board. I will say this because I know a lot of people are probably wondering, but NFL teams do look a year ahead in terms of like the quarterback class. So like there is like scouting departments. Typically, what happens is the road scouts are done with their reports by the time the season ends, right? Because all the games are pretty much done aside from the college football playoff. And like those guys, once that process is over, you're getting early feedback and looking at the top guys for next year. So at this point in the cycle, the coaches and the general managers in the front office, the head honcho decision makers are all in on putting their fingerprints on their draft board this year. But your actual like national scouts and stuff, like they're already kind of got an eye ahead on next year's class. It just at least about the big guys. So I'm sure they're aware of like what next year's class and have a better feel for it. But we'll see. I don't know. The Steelers could be desperate. I mean, we've seen them do this before, like 2022. Very similar situation. Ended up taking a quarterback that I was pretty low on. And I'm just kind of hoping that they avoid that kind of same mistake this time.
I remember you were like, oh, draft Malik Willis. That guy should go first in the draft. That's actually what I was doing.
Yeah, everybody like weirdly remembers like the context. It's funny. I think it was like a couple months ago, somebody was saying something like chirping me about having Malik Willis as my QB1. And I tweeted him and I was like, do you see my big board? Like he's number 32 on the big board. Like I explicitly said on every single show that you and I did, don't take a quarterback. I was like, please do not do it. Like, don't take a quarterback in the first round. This is not the year to do it. Now, Willis
Yes.
definitely has not, even though things did look promising in short time span in Green Bay last year. He has not panned out. That entire draft class, other than Brock Purdy, who was taken in the 7th round, I didn't even get around to scouting him. But yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, please just don't make the same mistake again.
I don't think they are. I think they are a little scared from 2022. And I
I
also
hope
like
so.
the sense I get is talking to Omar at the league meetings just gave me such a strong sense of they are well aware next year's class is good and they're waiting for it. All right.